Hey, it's John at Tinderbox Arts. I'm going to do a quick little project today on my 2010 model Triumph Bonneville. In the past, I replaced the bulbs behind these indicator lights here, sometimes called idiot lights, with LED versions, because originally from the factory they came with incandescent, and the LED are much brighter. However, the gauges still have the original incandescent bulbs behind them, and I noticed that they're getting kind of dim now. I don't do that much night riding, but when I do, it's kind of annoying. Now I'll turn the shop lights off for a second just to give you a sense. When I turn the key to the on position, you can see everything lighting up here. The indicator lights are pretty bright, and the camera will correct the exposure, so this probably doesn't look that bad on camera, but in real life it's pretty dim. Now you can get LED in different colors. I think I will stick with just, a standard white color, but you can get red, you can get blue. So I want to open this up and just see what I can do as far as finding things locally. I may have to go online to buy the bulbs I need, but I just want to see if I can try to do it locally with an auto parts store. Now on the back of the gauges there are some acorn style nuts, and I have not ever taken these apart, but I think we're going to start with these and see what we can expose. So you can see this rear cover comes off pretty easily. However, it interferes with the headlight. So my choice is either to remove the headlight, which I could do here, or I could loosen these bolts right here and perhaps take this whole assembly, move it forward a little bit. I think I might try that first. With those 4 bolts out of the way, I can move this whole assembly up a little bit, and I can easily get the cover off. And I look inside the cover and I see some loose washers and some bugs, so maybe it's just as well I clean this out while I'm here. Now on the speedometer side, I have a manual speedometer cable here, right? The newer models didn't have that, but this one does. And there's a rubber boot right here, which takes up a lot of room, and honestly it took me a few minutes of fussing to get that loose. It just welded itself onto this little nut right here, which actually was loose. So I'm glad I did this, because that should be tight. So I need to loosen this nut right here, and then the speedometer cable will come out once I get it all the way out here, and I might be able to do some lubrication of that cable too. So there's the cable. So I'm going to get that out of the way, otherwise it's just difficult to get this little can off of here. Now here's a better look with that can removed, but there is a pass-through hole right here, so I really can't take this whole can away unless I disconnect the wiring here, which I don't really need to do for my purposes, but if you want a better look at it, in case you do, it goes right in here. There is this adjustment here. There's a little screw inside, a very tiny screw inside of here. You can remove that screw and then pull this off, and then you can pull this section away from the frame. In my case here, I really don't think I need to do all that. I could just leave it in place, so it's a little awkward, but I'm just after the bulbs right now. And so to that end, the bulb holders, I guess we'll call them, there's one right here. If I look on this side, there's one right here. So you can see these wires going to that, and they're just rubber inserts there. So I just need to take those out to get access to the bulb. If I just take this rubber grommet here and just wiggle it a little bit, I can take that out, and that exposes the bulb. Now what I want to do is take this bulb out and see if I can find a local replacement in an LED form, which might be a little bit brighter. Now these are just a wedge fit in there. So if I give this a little yank carefully, that exposes the base here. So these are a very common bulb. However, the height is important because there's only so much clearance there. So I'm going to take this and look closely at the label right here. And you can see it's 12 volt, of course, and 1.7 watts. I'm going to see what I have available to me locally that will fit in this slot, maybe give me a little bit more brightness. I looked around my shop to see if I had anything lying around that might fit. I did find this LED bulb. Honestly, I don't even know what size it's called. You can see it has the same base, so it fits in the slot without a problem, but it's quite a bit wider and taller, and yet I did try it and it does fit. So that gives me hope that it's not super critical to get the exact same size. So I'm going to go to my auto parts store locally here and see what I can come up with. All right, I've done some research and I'm going to give you more information than you want probably, but here it is. The original bulb is a T10 incandescent, 12 volts of course, 1.7 watts, and that's important, and it's a mini wedge base, okay? We're looking for an LED bulb. Now if you're in Europe, I believe you can search for a T10 LED bulb and you will probably find something. Here in America though, for whatever reason, they're just not sold that way. The most common bulbs that you'll find with the mini wedge base in America is going to be the 194 and the 168 bulb. There are many others with a mini wedge base, but these are the most common used in the automotive arena. So if you have an incandescent 194 bulb, it draws 3.8 watts. Well, that's too much. If you have a 168 incandescent bulb, it draws 5 watts. That's also too much. However, we're looking for LED versions of this. So the 194 or 168 LED version, both are going to draw under 1 watt, and that's fine. But there is another caveat. The newer bikes use a CAN bus system, so that's a networked electrical system which replaces a fuse box and physical fuses. Now my bike does not have that. My bike has the older fuse box with fuses, so each circuit is designed with a certain wire size and a certain fuse size, and as long as you don't go over what that design allows, you're fine. So in my case, a 194 or 168 in LED form is under 1 watt, and the circuit will certainly allow for that, so no problem. But if you have a newer bike and you have the CAN bus system, it could be a problem because the CAN bus system has programmed values, a high and a low value for each circuit, and if you go outside of those values, the computer may complain and it may throw a code. So you will see LED lights sold as CAN bus compatible or with a load equalizer built in. Those would be a problem, and they would be a problem for me because in that case they built in a resistor to cause the bulb to draw more than it really needs. So I would be back up in this range, and that's no good for me. However, if you do have a CAN bus compatible bike, you're probably going to look for a T10 LED and you'll be fine. So that is one point of confusion. But going back to the 194 and the 168, both are the mini wedge base. The color temperature of the light is going to be 6,000 to 6,500 Kelvin typically. Kelvin is a scale that measures color temperature. The incandescent light is typically around 2,700 Kelvin. So this is a much whiter light, and it's a brighter light as well. But I want to mention that physical size can vary. So just because you're buying an LED in a 194 or 168 does not mean it will physically fit. So the original bulb I did measure, and of course it's 10 millimeters wide. That's why it's called a T10. And from the tip to the base is 25 millimeters. So this LED bulb that I happen to have in my shop here, I measured that, and that one is 12 millimeters wide, so it's wider, and 28 millimeters tall, so it's taller. However, I did put it in the bike and it physically fit. So all I can tell you is if you find a 194 or 168 bulb in LED form, it's no bigger than these measurements here, and it doesn't have the CAN bus compatibility, then I think you're going to be okay. So that was a long trip, I know, but I just want to make all that information available to you. Okay, getting back to the bike here, obviously these are super simple to install. It's just a wedge fit there, and you just push it in and you're good to go. I do need to mention one thing though. LED bulbs, most of them anyway, have a polarity. So if you insert them and the light doesn't come on, odds are you just need to pull it out, flip it 180 degrees and put it back in. Having said that, you want to put these bulbs in and actually test them to make sure you do have the polarity correct. So I have 2 of these in here. There's 3 total. I have 2 in right now. Just to show you, I'll turn the key on. and they both do light up. So I know I'm good. But if I took this out and flipped it 180, you'll see it does not light up. So just make sure you have the polarity correct. All right, before I put everything back together, I'm just going to give this a test, make sure I like it. So I'll turn the key on. Oh yeah, that's much better. It's brighter, a much whiter light, more pleasing for sure. Now there are two lights down here that I was never worried about. Those are plenty bright, so I'm just going to leave those alone. But these are much nicer up top here. This is going to be a better ride at night for sure.